Time now for our Entre Nous segment, and today we are going to be telling you about one of the most beloved graphic novels among children here in France. Mortelle Adèle, or Rebel Adèle, has kept many kids gripped in this country for nearly a decade. To talk more about this, we can bring in Diane Le Feyer, who took over as illustrator of Mortelle Adèle. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. What was it like for you taking over as illustrator of this book that is very, very successful here in France?
Well, first of all, it's like a friendship between myself and the author, Antoine Doll, aka Mr. Tan, who is the creator of Mortelle Adèle. So he first invented her when he was 14 years old, and since then, it has been like an expanding story, an expanding universe. For us, each of every new project is like a new thing coming up. It's like a new universe that we develop. We have the projects, we have comics, we have the magazines, we have the podcasts, we have music. Every new project is like a new thing to get ourselves into.
What makes Adèle a rebel?
I think she's her own thing, like she doesn't belong to a group. She's really herself, and she doesn't need to belong to, to have a specific pair of sneakers, or she's a little bit rough around the edges. She speaks her mind. And I think the kids, they enjoy that, to have this kind of freedom of, speaking.
Is that what you think appeals to kids, that she has no holds barred, if you will?
She has her own will. I think for the kids today, and even when we were kids, the environment and the world is a very tough place. And as an adult, we always think about childhood like a wonderful place because we had no bills to pay. But for the kids, it's a hard place to be. So when you have a character that is very strong-willed, that has the power to say no, that say it's okay to be you. You are enough. It's okay to have emotions. You matter. It's a great, I think, space to exist and to be.
How does it work? Because now you have taken over as illustrator. Antoine Doll, as you mentioned, who goes by the alias Mr. Tan, was the brains behind Rebel Adèle. How closely do you guys work together?
We speak to each other on a daily basis. Basically, we're on the phone or in Zooms or texting each other. So we're in the middle of a never-ending conversation, really. So all of the stories and all of the ideas, they come from this place of us talking together. So
tell me, what's Adèle's relationship with her parents?
With her parents, she's
it's
like
testy, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But they made her, so there is a part of them inside of her. They're rebel inside of themselves too, and I think that's the thing that we're also trying to say to parents, because sometimes parents are like, oh, well, she's very strong-willed and she has a bit of a temper. It's okay. You were a kid too. So remember that time when you were a kid.
So I know that kids like the book. What about the parents?
The parents, they enjoy the book too.
Really?
As a matter of fact, we receive letters, 200 letters per week, basically, from kids and also from their parents. So, yeah.
And it seems that kids in France, not just girls, but boys as well, are hooked onto Mortelle Adèle. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because she's at a very pivotal point between childhood and early teenage years. And the way she is and the way she behaves, it's still at this very magical moment when you're still a child and you can still have this imagination and fantasy, and she can stand her ground, and she also has a great sense of humor. And for the kids, it's very important to have your book and your little thing that you're discovering, and it can partake that with your parent.
Now, you mentioned that it's more than just this graphic novel Mortelle Adèle, but a podcast and magazine. Talk to us about those ventures.
We love to develop new projects. It's always expanding universe.
So what's the podcast about, for instance?
The podcasts are kids that are asking questions to us, and Mortelle Adèle, we have a comedian who
plays Mortelle
Adèle. So we receive everyday questions and we answer on the podcast. So a kid can say, oh, I'm being bullied at school, for instance, and what can I do about that? And we will have a conversation about that.
So, and the podcast can be found on Spotify?
It's on Gulli app. Not sure about Spotify.
Okay. Now, Mortelle Adèle is produced in many languages.
Yes.
Which languages is it produced in? And why is it not produced in English?
Well, for the English language, I think it's a work in progress right now. We are, yes, translated into 17 languages. We have like Portuguese, Greek, Russian, Ukrainian, and many more. And I think the interesting part is that it's always said that humor doesn't translate well, and yet here we are today with 17 languages, which means more countries, I think. So there is something going on there. Like, she is a child of the millennium, maybe. Like, she talks to all the kids around.
Diane, today parents struggle with this.
Yes.
Screen, phone addictions. What's it like to know that you are creating something which takes kids off of their screens?
Well, it's very exhilarating for me because when I was a child, I would spend hours reading books and reading comic books. So to know that kids can let go of the screen time, and get lost, into a story, into a great adventure like the one that is out today, it's just wonderful to think that they are enjoying the reading time on their own.
So what inspired you when you were growing up in terms of graphic novels?
I'm a big lover of everything that is Scrooge and Donald Duck related. Don Rosa's and Carl Back stories are the perfect mix to me for, mysteries, adventures, wonderful storytelling and great design. Mafalda also.
And now, Adèle, from what I understand, is the colors are very well thought out in the book and change depending on Adèle's different moods. Was that something that was difficult to come up with?
Well, when I work, everything moves in my head. Like when I draw her, she's already always, doing something, and the colors are like music to me. It's almost like the soundtrack of the drawing that I'm making. So sometimes you don't need words, you need an atmosphere.
And how old is Adèle?
I cannot really say.
Does she age?
She doesn't.
She doesn't age?
No.
And does she keep up with the changing world and changing trends?
Yeah, well, she's not really into a trend, but she is her own thing. But the funny thing, and what I really enjoy doing with Antoine, is she always, take things from her parents from the 80s and create new things with us. So with like the old game consoles or their own computers. And
or LPs or something.
Yes, she's always creating stuff. She's a very creative child. And I think that the kids are like, how can she do all of these things,
But is that why people recognize that this girl is fierce? She's a force to be reckoned with.
Yes, she has this big red hair and she has a bit of a temper. She has this very intense brow that has been always been there, because when Antoine drew her first when he was 14 years old, she already was drawn like this. So her face, her whole attitude, the way she is, just kept the same.
Do you have numbers to share with me in terms of approximately how many kids right now in France are reading it?
In France, we have 20 million books sold.
20 million
yes,
books.
20 million. That's a lot of zeros. It's
That's
wonderful.
a lot, considering that this country has a population of 60-something million. So.
Yes, it's a lot of. No, but it's great because it means that the kids still read, and for us to be authors and to know that our books are in all these bedrooms and they are treasured, and the kids and the parents are followers. They commit to the next book that we are going to present to them. There is one out today called Mortelle Adèle sur les traces du croque-pot, and we know that the book has been expected. Like they just want to have it.
Anticipation.
So,
because I have friends who don't have kids and they also know about Mortelle Adèle. So thank you so much, Diane, for coming in and explaining to Mortelle Adèle, Rebel Adèle to us. And hopefully soon it'll be out in English, you said?
I hope so. It's in a work in progress.
It's in the works. So great to have you here
Thank you for
on
having
France
me.
24.